Tonight in the race for governor, Zephyr Teachout is on the attack. Should Governor Andrew Cuomo be looking over his shoulder? Cuomo's Democratic challenger using Cuomo's diss by the New York Times to her advantage. Teachout also going to bat with the governor over affordable housing that would force some tenants to enter the building through the so-called poor door. Also, former New York City top cop Ray Kelly says he considered a run for mayor, but is a political future in the works for the former NYPD commissioner. And it seems the GOP is still struggling to win over female voters. Could this mean trouble for the party if Hillary Clinton is the Democratic nominee in 2016? Good evening and welcome to RFL. I'm Andrew Whitman, in tonight for Richard French. Thanks so much for joining us. We begin tonight with the race for governor, where New York Governor Andrew Cuomo remains on top in the polls, at least in general election polling. We have no polls in the primary, despite the federal probe into his disbandment of the Anti-Corruption Commission that he created. Cuomo's Democratic challenger, Fordham law professor Zephyr Teachout, who was somewhat thrown into this race by the Working Families Party, making a name for herself, even though most voters don't know who she is. This week, the New York Times editorial board announced that it is not endorsing Teachout or Cuomo, but the Times today endorsed Tim Wu, who is running for lieutenant governor alongside Teachout. And by the way, lieutenant governor and governor are not connected on primary ballots. Wu could be nominated even if Teachout loses her primary. In response to the Times' decision to close the door on Cuomo and herself, Teachout stated, quote, "The New York Times came as close to an endorsement as it possibly could without an actual endorsement." She also turned the table and jumped at the opportunity to go after Cuomo by saying the non-endorsement was really a powerful rebuke to Andrew Cuomo's 4 years in office. And Teachout is on the attack again. Wednesday, she kicked off a statewide whistleblower tour, blasting the governor for dealing with a building developer who's behind an affordable housing plan that would force underprivileged tenants to enter a different door than wealthy neighbors. Teachout says the Extel company is best known for creating the poor door concept, and executives at the company donated $100,000 to the governor's campaign last year. That money came in just days before Cuomo signed a bill giving the company strong tax breaks. Teachout calling the poor door plan a monument to the corruption of Governor Andrew Cuomo's Albany. And she also stated, when we talk about this poor door building and the poor door company, we must remember the cost of these subsidies. There's a cost to our schools. There's a cost to every New Yorker. Speaking of schools, Republican gubernatorial candidate Rob Astorino blasted by state Democrats over comments he made at an upstate firearms festival. Astorino said he supported shooting classes at local schools. Astorino also down an aide, at least on his day job side. Hugh Fox Jr., chairman of the Westchester Conservative Party, resigned from his job this week after crashing his county-owned car and being hit with a DWI in the process. That is a lot to digest, so let's get to our panel, and we're joined tonight by Jessica Proud. She is a Republican strategist and PR expert with the November team. She is also a spokeswoman for the aforementioned Astorino gubernatorial campaign. TJ McCormick returns. He is a Republican consultant. Richard Brodsky is here, former Democratic New York State Assemblyman, now a senior fellow at Demos and a professor at NYU. And oh yes, Dominic Carter, as always, political journalist and author. Welcome all. First of all, there's no polling. There has been no polling in the Democratic primary race, which is now less than 2 weeks away. Nobody seems to think that Zephyr Teachout really has a chance against Andrew Cuomo. But with this vacuum of news, is there something brewing for Teachout?
Absolutely, absolutely. She's been getting great press. She's traveling around the state. The Times non-endorsement, she was right, it is as much of an endorsement for her. They basically gave Democratic voters permission to vote for her. And it is a huge rebuke of a sitting incumbent Democratic governor. But as she's traveling around the state, she's getting bigger crowds. You know, these races are impossible to poll accurately because the turnout is so low. So even if they did do a head-to-head right now, I don't think it would accurately reflect what the numbers on election day are going to be, but she's definitely gaining momentum. She's starting to get establishment endorses. PEF came out for her, the National Organization of Women, Sierra Club. So the fact that these institutional...
I was notice this side of the table is not saying anything.
I was going to let her get to a period, but Richard, is there any threat here to Cuomo?
Well, let me just comment on the comment, because it's not that you're wrong. I think it's a lot of sense in what you said. It's the glee. That
well, of course.
It's the joy that you bring to this.
The friend of my enemy is my friend. So,
that being said, I think given whatever polling has been done shows that the voters don't know who she is. That's a powerful impediment to say the least.
No question.
Is that what you call it?
That's what I'm calling
Okay,
it. But
okay,
that
okay.
being said, primary voters are better, more issue-oriented and more event-oriented, more aware than voters at large. As the electorate gets narrower, they tend to be more ideological and more informed. That is not what Andrew Cuomo wants to hear. I actually have gotten a piece of mail from the Cuomo campaign, and I got what they call a push ID call from the Cuomo campaign, which means that they're trying to find a way to figure out who the Cuomo voters are and say to them, psst, come on out to vote. That being said, every bit of conventional wisdom says she can't win, and then everything your instincts are, something's going on there, and who the hell knows?
And in addition to all that, not only are primary voters more informed and more aware, they're also a bit more motivated. They're a bit more motivated and energized, and they are mobile, and they will show up. And anybody on any given primary day could potentially come in and swipe, especially when the top of the ticket, the big guy, is slightly wounded and limping at this point.
This is like why the Republicans ended up with Carl Palladino, if you don't mind my bringing up some negative history.
Bring up whatever you want.
Look at Eric Cantor's race.
Do whatever you have
the
to do,
fact of
Rich.
the matter is that's why these races are impossible to predict. Now, I'm not suggesting that she's going to win, but I do think that she can take a very big bite out of him.
Pick a number.
Which will,
How much?
I think she can get 30%.
And think about the effect of a 30% hit by a Zephyr Teachout and a potential woo knocking off a Hochul. That is a big wounded top of the ticket.
Let's explore that a little bit more, because the Astorino campaign has certainly tried to encourage the Teachout primary effort. Astorino and Teachout are going to debate on the radio before the primary day comes up in less than 2 weeks. If Zephyr Teachout gets 30%, 35%, if she does anything short of knocking off Cuomo from the top of the ticket, does that really help Rob Astorino in the fall?
Look, I think where they've come together is on the issue of corruption. They've both said that corruption is a huge problem. They held a joint press conference together before the big Moreland story broke, and they have both agreed to debate because Cuomo is in hiding and refuses to come out.
All valid points.
Yeah, I think absolutely. I mean, it'd be crazy to say politically that it's not advantageous for us if she wounds him at all in the primary.
But does it actually help Astorino this fall? Because you're talking about
it
disaffected, for the most part,
because,
very
look,
liberal voters who aren't going to vote for Astorino.
I'm not suggesting that they're going to vote for us, but they're not coming out for him. They're either going to stay home or they'll vote for Howie Hawkins, the vast majority of them. So I think he has a big problem right now because it's coming from the left, it's coming from the right, and if you look at independents, they're dissatisfied with where he is as well.
Okay, Andrew, reality check. Based on what we're hearing right now, the New York Yankees tonight are going to play me at shortstop and seat Derek Jeter. Based on what we're hearing here tonight. Astorino, that's a laugh, right?
That's a good metaphor.
I actually pay to see that. I pay to see that.
There's an
Not for
audience
the
for
reasons
that.
the Yankees would want.
Wait. It ain't that funny. It ain't that funny.
It's pretty funny. It's pretty funny.
It's pretty funny.
Carter.
Pretty funny. You made your
like
point.
that.
Be on the left side of the
I like
internet.
that.
Not the
That's it.
I
the
like
left
that.
You made
side.
your point.
But I like that.
I know.
The
Go ahead.
announcer, Dominique
Carter.
Dominique Carter.
Now,
Okay. Anyway, back to the point at hand. They want Cuomo going into the general election to be wounded. No offense, right now, based on polling, it's showing the only chance that Astorino has, since he's not known by voters throughout the state, is if he's wounded at a Democratic primary. It's not going to happen. Teachout is a creation of the media. She might get 30%, and in 3 weeks, we're not going to be talking about her anymore. It'll be on to the general
You
election
don't think
campaign.
a 30%?
It'll be
total-
embarrassing. It'll be embarrassing to
but
the
it
governor.
doesn't tell you something about where the Democratic Party is, what they want, and not so much that Cuomo's invulnerable to Astorino because Astorino is attacking him from the right. He's Cuomo light or Cuomo hard, one of those. The problem is if 35% of the electorate comes out for her, that means a lot of people are going to sit on their hands and not vote, and that's what they want.
Maybe. I just don't see it that
And
way. I see all of this as media payback to Cuomo. The media is furious at Cuomo for not playing ball with them, and it's payback time because they feel, meaning the media, that he's vulnerable.
TJ?
I was just going to say the other thing, too, that wouldn't hurt, and this speaks to the sad state of affairs in this state, is, well, an indictment. And that is really a part of the narrative here. There is a possibility that this guy is looking at an indictment. We have a sitting governor, state of New York. The reason he's not showing up is because he's under federal investigation, and his criminal defense attorney is the one saying, you can't go anywhere, Andrew.
It
is what his attorney is saying.
Any credit to hope for an indictment. That's not.
I'm not hoping for anything. It's a possibility. I didn't say I'm hoping for it there, Rich. I said it's another possibility.
I saw the look in your eyes.
Yeah, that's love for you there, Richard.
Meanwhile, as whatever criticism that Cuomo's getting throughout this process, trying to bring it back.
Yes, please.
Whatever criticism that Cuomo's getting through this process, or whatever damage he might be taking during all this, the headlines are still not that friendly to Rob Astorino. You've got the DWI from his aide in Westchester County. There's plenty of ads that are being run questioning his ethics in Westchester County as well. And then you've got this support for gun classes for kids. And this is in wake of what we saw at the gun range in Arizona just yesterday.
Can I comment on that, please? Because this is regurgitating Democratic talking points, not living in reality. He was at a gun festival over the weekend. It's a sportsmanship festival, and discussed the culture and the sportsman culture and how we need to be teaching our youngsters rifle safety, and that the SAFE Act did nothing to make us any safer, and this attitude that you're anti-Second Amendment and against people's rights to be sportsmen and to own guns is an attack on their culture. That's what he said. He said nothing about bringing guns into school. The Democrats twisted that and put out a press release, and now you're reporting it as fact, and it's not true.
Pish tush, as we say. The fact of the matter is, Rob has had a consistent NRA-ish position on gun issues.
He's a strong Second Amendment supporter, yes.
That's your way of saying it.
Yes.
My way of saying it is he's pro-gun. Now, do you want put that difference aside? The fact of the matter is that it ran into the video of this horrible situation in Arizona. It's a sign of his vulnerability because most New Yorkers don't agree with him.
That's not true, Richard. Maybe in Manhattan they feel that way, but the rest of the state, you should go around the state and see the amount of people that are protesting the SAFE Act, that are protesting Cuomo. You see it everywhere.
There are many people, but in the state of 18 million people, it's a small minority.
Latest statewide poll was something like 53% support for the SAFE Act.
There's 6 million gun owners in New York State. It's not a small minority.
And that 6 million is one of his worst nightmares. God forbid those 6 million all show up on the very same day, Richard Brodsky.
The Republican Party in New York, when it adopts a pro-gun agenda, loses votes. That's what the polls show. That's what the politics are. That's why the Senate voted to let it go through. He may believe it, and I'm not challenging his sincerity. It's lousy politics.
Jessica, I'll give you the last word.
No, when you pull the SAFE Act, people don't understand what that is. Of course, they think the SAFE Act sounds great, but there's a huge undercurrent, and talk about motivated voters that are very, very angry about what he did, including law enforcement professionals, and they're coming out on election
6 million
day.
of them. Can 6 million votes win an election? Can 6 million votes win an election?
I would think
We're
so.
going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to switch our focus to New York City, and he knows the city like the back of his hand. Could he try his hand at politics? Former New York City top cop Ray Kelly spoke to Dominic about a run for mayor. Could there be more? We'll find out next.